Hello, hello, hello. This is Live with Michelle Vann. We talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we are here with Sarah Khan.
Hello.
Welcome, 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 Sarah. Sarah. Tell us a little bit about who Sarah Khan, the Dragon Lady, who you are, and what do you do in the world?
So, thank you first of all for having me here. I'm so excited. We're gonna have so much fun. My name is Sarah Khan. I am an identity strategist. I'm a leadership architect. I'm a purpose and power architect. You can call me whatever you want, but I am the Dragon Lady. I work with accomplished women who are ready to turn their lifetime of expertise into a legacy-driven thought leadership platform that they can scale their business with, they can craft a legacy with, they can disrupt the status quo by really leaning into their purpose with power. Because it is my mission and my purpose to ensure that we all live lives of significance.
That's a lot, Sarah.
It is.
How did as you think about that, because there's a lot of components.
Yeah.
How did you determine that this needed to be your purpose?
I don't think I determined it, to be honest with you. I think I've been fighting against it for too long.
Ooh.
Yeah, like I think we all know deep down what our purpose is and so okay, so let me backtrack a little bit. 2 weeks ago, I did a TEDx talk. And it
Uh-huh.
was my first, I'm saying this out into the ether, my first TEDx talk. And it was, I mean, the journey to get there was in and of itself pretty interesting. I had, been pitching TEDx for a few years. I had worked with paid, high ticket coaches who were ex-TED producers and who were speaking coaches and who promised we're going to get you a TED ready speech. We're going to make sure that you have keynotes that you can pitch to people, blah blah blah. And I did everything that I was told to do by the
Mm-hmm.
experts.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say that I was not allowed, but I was definitely not encouraged to speak about what I wanted to speak about, what I thought was interesting to me, what my message was. The message kept coming back, the feedback kept coming back as that's not going to sell. That's not what TED does. TED would want to hear about this, etc., and so forth. So I pitched using all of the ideas they gave me, and every single one was rejected.
Mm.
And I got fed up. I stopped working with people. I went on a bit of a pivot last year. I went on a hiatus. All of this stuff happened. And then an event came up. Yeah, I'm just going to pitch it and I'm just going to pitch what I want. We were in the middle of moving. I really wasn't thinking about it. And so I pitched the idea while we are in this Airbnb that I absolutely hated. The Airbnb, not the idea. And I got an interview and I was like, oh, okay. But again, we were in the middle of moving, completely forgot about the interview. And an hour before, my phone dinged to remind me that I had this interview scheduled. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in my pajamas. I haven't done my hair. So I quickly got ready and I just spoke from the heart. Like, this is why this is important to me. And they gave it to me on the spot. And that for me was the first moment of like, oh, maybe what's on my heart, this thing that I keep coming back to, all the resistance I've been feeling around doing things the way other people have told me to, maybe there's a valid reason for that. Fast forward to doing the talk, and all these women came up to me afterwards and they said, thank you for speaking about the things that we've been told our whole lives we're not supposed to speak about. Thank you for validating our lived experience. And I went home and I cried. Like, I cried and I had this huge sort of unraveling because I realized every single time I have felt resistance to what someone else has wanted me to do,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't because I had a mindset issue. It wasn't because I didn't understand business. It wasn't because I didn't understand, how to sell or to market, or it was because I was consistently denying the gift and the purpose that I had been given the moment I came into the world. And even me being able to say that and acknowledge it because it sounds so big, the gift and the purpose you were given, it's to some people it sounds braggy, to some people it sounds like you're in your head, it's ego, whatever. No, there's a reason this has been put on my heart. And the moment I acknowledged it and embraced the truth that I desire significance in my life and in my work, everything got easier. It was like being able to breathe for the first time.
I think that's so key because I think as we women, as kids,
Yeah,
little girls, are told that you should fit in these boxes. These
absolutely.
boxes that are pink, these boxes that are quiet, these boxes that are demure, these boxes that um, are what society says that we should look like, sound like, feel like, and think like, that maybe are not uniquely part of who we are. And
Yeah.
so when we come back in our next segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about that unique part of being who we are. We're talking to Sarah Khan, and this is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We'll be right back. We are back. We are talking to Sarah Khan. We were talking a little bit about your TEDx talk and talking about the whole idea that often people want us to fit into their boxes, and our unique way in which we are designed to function and purpose in this world is not always appreciated. So, as you went into this TEDx and as you have discovered and gone into business, you have discovered or been discovering on this road of discovering who Sarah is. We know that, there is another, there are a few Sarah Khans out there in the world,
Yeah.
but you, Sarah Khan, are a different Sarah Khan than anybody else that's out there.
Yes. Yes.
And how did you get, so you said, you don't believe that this path was laid out for you. It was something that you kind of discovered. How did you begin to discover that your call, your unique lane is to help women in this business sector? How did that, because you could have gone anyway. You could have been
Yeah.
an accountant. You could have been a teacher. You could have been a lot of these things. And some of these things you were at some points.
Yeah.
But, you could have just been, and I say just, but I don't mean that in a demeaning sort of way. You could have stayed, I'm going to be my kid's mom, and I don't want to do anything else out there in the world for all these other people. I just want to focus on
Yeah.
share my life with my kiddos.
Yeah. I mean, I've always really loved working. Like that's something that I've been doing it since I was 13. I've never not had a job. I came to entrepreneurship really kind of by accident. It was thrust upon me versus me chasing it. But once I got in here and I realized the potential for freedom and security and autonomy and choice, that became because that's always been really important to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
always fought that in the corporate space. And when I came into the business space, I have a very operational brain. So I could see the dots. I could see how things should be if people wanted to get to a certain, goal or location or outcome. And it started to get really frustrating to me how many people were denying who they were and what they really wanted to do to fit into these boxes, like you were saying. So, like, they jumped out of the corporate box or the traditional workspace box, jumped into entrepreneurship thinking they were going to be free, but really just jumping back into somebody else's perspective and vision for what needs to be. And I felt like, because I want women to have choice and agency, entrepreneurship really is a strong vehicle for that. So I need to help them stay out of the boxes. And I think it was because that's what I had to do for myself that I became my own best client. And that's now who I serve.
So where did the dragon come from?
That's a much longer story for in a nutshell. They used to call me the Dragon Lady when I was in corporate because I worked in um events and project management.
Mhm.
And working around a lot of guys, I had to cultivate a level of assertiveness and aggressiveness to be able to tell them to do what I needed them to do. And so they would jokingly call me the Dragon Lady because I would get really fired up about stuff. And I think in those days, it was like not meant to be a nice name. It was kind of a,
Hmm.
you know, they called it behind my back. And the funny thing is, when I moved to education, the name followed me. I don't know how, because I never called myself that before. But then the students started to call me the Dragon Lady. And one day, I'll never forget, it was the start of a semester. And a student was at the back of the room and he had his feet up on the table. And, you know, I was like looking at him, I was taking the roster on the first day. And I was like, "Do you want to put your feet down?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, you're the Dragon Lady. I forgot." And I kind of, you know, tilted my head and looked at him. I said, "Tell me more." And he goes, "Oh, well, you do know that like half the students in here rearranged their schedules to be in your class, right?" And I was like, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you're the dragon." He says, "We know that you treat your students like precious coins, precious jewels, and that you'll do anything to protect
Mm.
them." And
Woo!
that reframe was just something that made me realize that whatever people call you,
Yeah.
how you behave is what's actually going to shape the reality of what that name means. And so it's stuck. And I now call myself that with great pride.
Oh my God. And you know, here's the thing, because you know, I have a student story too. I think that when we are in education, you know, teachers don't get paid crap. They, you know, they get all of the beans and weenies and the crumbs from the table. But there are so many powerful things that happen when you connect with those kiddos and they connect with you and they really begin to understand how powerful that connection is and
Yeah.
how, you know, even if you're the one that's always on their head, they know that you love them and that you are there for them. And it is just an amazing thing that happens when that happens. We are talking to Sarah Khan. I know it's just, you know, before we know it, our time is flying. We're talking to Sarah Khan and we are talking about how do we really make sure that we are walking in our authenticity. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My wife and I want to invite you to a day shop called Marriage Encounters with Bill and Michelle. Listen, we've been married 34 years. I'm not saying we've done everything right, but we've done a whole lot of stuff right.
Whatever.
We want to be a blessing to you.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, our theme is doing married life doggy style.
What?
Now,
Doggy style.
don't get it twisted and think it means something, although it might. But
Whatever.
hey, look, you need to come and check this out. Whether you've been married 2 days, 2 years, 22 years,
30 years,
30 years, like old heads like us, you need to come and be empowered in your marriage, because what we want to do is celebrate love and celebrate marriage. Come check us out. It's coming up real soon. You need to register quick because it will sell out, baby, baby.
Yeah, and so what we want you to do is go to our Facebook page. You can go to my Facebook page.
Don't go to mine because you know I don't get out like that. Anyway,
so we have a group called Marriage Encounters with Bill and Michelle. There, all the information is there, or you can go to my Facebook page and it is pinned at the top. You do need to register. It is $75 per couple. That is per couple, not each person, per couple. That is going to cover your great swag that you're going to get. You're going to have some great merch. We've got some really cool stuff that we're getting. It's going to cover your workshops. It is
catered meal.
Yeah, it's going to cover your catered meal. It's going to cover a renewal ceremony. And it is just going to be fun. We're going to have games. We're going to have a generations panel. So we've got some people that have been married for various different age groups. And so we're just going to have fun. This is a time to be able to renew yourself, to restore, to renew. You know, you think about spring. Spring is that time where we do all of that cleaning out. We clean out our closets. We clean out our houses. This is the time to clean out your marriage. Just get ready to move into spring. Just have some spring cleaning. So again, Marriage Encounters with Bill and Michelle Vann. Marriage Doing It Doggy Style. I'm sure you've seen it on Facebook. If you haven't, go there, look. It is on my page. J. Michelle Vann, and make sure that you get registered today.
You don't want to miss out. Doggy style. Woo-hoo!
Back We are back. We are talking to Sarah Khan. This is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We were talking about how students, sometimes we are the teachers, but often we learn and we get those tidbits and we get those moments from students that spark us in ways that really put us on a trajectory to finding out who we are. Sometimes kids don't really know that we're learning more lessons from them than they're learning from us. So you talked about the fact that you pitched your heart. How do you help women really get to that space where they're pitching their heart, not necessarily pitching what they believe or what the world has told them they should be pitching?
So I wish that it was a simple answer. Like I wish it was, oh, it's a 3-step process and you can completely, liberate yourself, because that's what sells, right? But the reality is it has to start with unlearning everything that you've been told by questioning who you really are. It does not matter what capacity a woman comes to work with me. And the very first thing we're going to do is sit down and really uncover who she is. Not who she's been told she is, or who she's been told she has to be, or the role she's played her whole life, or the titles by which she defines herself, but like, who are you at your essence, your core? And you know who she is. She's the voice that pops up when, you feel resistance against something. She's the voice that pops up when when you wish you could do something a certain way, or something feels like it's brushing against your values, and like that little voice in the back of your head that we have been taught to silence over and over and over. So it really starts with digging deep and reacquainting yourself with who you were before the world told you who you had to be.
So as you think about that, as you think about reacquainting yourself, are there tips, are there things? So someone says, hey, I'm just really trying to figure this out. I'm really trying to get to a space where I can even feel comfortable. Because I heard you say, I've gone to several coaches, I've spent the money, I've done the things, those things didn't necessarily work for me. And there may be other people that are listening that say the same thing. I've done this, I've hired people, I've spent the money, it didn't work. What would you tell them?
First of all, don't gaslight yourself into thinking it's a mindset problem. It's not. So you know what? Sit down with yourself, and whatever process you need to do, whether it's talking to a friend, verbalizing it into, a recording device, journaling, whatever you need to do. The first thing I would say is ask yourself what really brings you joy. Like, what are you doing when you don't feel like you're working? What is that thing? And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to income or working or anything like that. Sometimes it's something that I haven't done this for a long time, but I remember it brought me joy. Okay, go back to that. What about that thing brought you joy? What were the characteristics of that it brought out in you? Another thing you can do is sit down and ask yourself, what are all of the roles that you play in your life right now? And I don't mean surface level roles like teacher or sister or wife or mother. I mean, I'm the people pleaser in this relationship. I'm the high performer in this relationship. I'm the yes ma'am in this relationship. Write all of those down and ask yourself where you are still doing that out of fear, or out of what's the word? Feeling like you have to.
That obligation.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. And where maybe you don't want to be that person anymore. Because that's what, those are the layers you start to peel away.
Right.
And I said this to someone yesterday. I said, it's the hardest work you'll ever have to do, but it's also the easiest work you'll do, because it's necessary and you already know all the answers, so you can't fail.
It's the rewarding piece, because and I like the way you said, we're not talking about the roles you play as in wife, mother, daughter, those things that you do. It's those people pleaser, those things that are the next layer under the surface that I might not realize that I am always the person who's the fixer. I'm always the person who's, the go-between. And I may do that not realizing that that's really my role.
Yeah. Yeah. It's either a role that you kind of fell into or that you kind of did to keep the peace, or
Mm-hmm.
you did to create the kind of environment you hoped everyone would be happy in. I don't like when people say, evaluate your role, because I love being a mom. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with me being a mom. But
Absolutely.
the role I play as a mother, like, who am I showing up as for these kids? Is it to keep the peace? Is it to protect my sanity? Or is it for the best and the highest purpose for all of us? Like, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, and if we have time, I can give you an example.
Go ahead.
My youngest one, she's on the spectrum. She
Mm-hmm.
has Asperger's. I know we don't call it that anymore, but it's the easiest way to contextualize it. And for a very long time when she was very young, it was always like, well, I want her to behave a certain way. So I would show up as a certain mom because that's what society expected. They need her to behave a certain
Mm-hmm.
way in
Yeah.
public or in school or wherever. And I kept showing up thinking I'm making everything right. And it was stifling my child. And she couldn't understand why she was always getting in trouble or mama was always yelling. And when I allowed myself to just be the mom she needed versus the mom I thought I should be,
Mm-hmm.
this kid is thriving. And our relationship is so much better. And that's what I want women to be able to do in every aspect of their life. Show up as the woman you need to be, not the one they tell you is right or appropriate.
I love that. That is so, so beautiful. We are talking to Sarah Khan. We will be right back. Can you believe it? We are at our last segment already. It has been flying by. We've been talking to Sarah Khan. We in the last segment with you kind of having this conversation around how there is this perception of how we need to show up as moms, how we need to
Mm-hmm.
show up as women in the world. But sometimes those perceptions and how we begin to have those boxes and those masks and the things that help us to look acceptable
Yeah,
don't always allow us to walk in our freedom. Does that
that
capture it?
is perfectly. Yes.
So as we begin to walk in our freedom, I know that you are the purpose architect. So you are helping women figure out what their purpose is and how do they walk in that. If I wanted to work with you, I wanted to sit down and just have a conversation. What would that look like?
I want to say though, I won't help you figure out what your purpose is. You already know what it
Mm.
is. I help you uncover it and articulate it and just clarify it and distill it. Um, so working in this process, the first thing we do is, we will figure out together what your unique purpose is as a leader. Because you
Mhm.
are a leader, whether it's a formal title or not. You lead in your family, you lead in your friend circle, your church, your school, like wherever you are, you hold some sort of leadership capacity. So what does that look like? What does it look like for you to be the person who walks in front of?
Mhm.
And when we identify the way that that makes you unique, now we can look at the thing that you want to do. For a lot of the women that I work with, that's their business. What does the business now need to look like? So we're breaking free of all of the paradigms of like the traditional business models, and you have to have a funnel and you have to have, like, that's all fine and well, but looking at the kind of business that is going to help you elevate everything you know to be true about your purpose, and then turning that into an actionable roadmap. Like, how do we know? Okay, it's all great to talk about my purpose is this, and it's big and it's unique, and I'm a wonderful human being, and I want to do all these grand things. How do we actually do that? Because
Yeah.
that's one thing that I think is very, very important. It's not just enough to know the what and the why. How do
Mhm.
we now turn that into something? So, we will work together to identify the big goal that you have,
Mhm.
and then break down the steps to actually getting to that goal in
Mhm.
under a year.
Yeah. So as you work with women, um, and as you develop these roadmaps, what are some, just tell us, as you've worked with some of these women before, what has been the most unique thing, or the thing that, you walked away and went, dang, that was good. We did that thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the thing that always kind of lights me up is when you sit down with a woman and you realize she has this big vision that she wants to bring into the world, and she's been told time and time again, either that's not going to sell, it's not sexy, it's not whatever. But we're like, no, this is how it sells. This is how we interpret and articulate it into the world. But then the magic happens when we can actually put a plan together that aligns with the life she has now and
Mhm.
not the one she's hoping to have in 5 years. Like the fact that we can sit
Mhm.
down and say, you only have to work from 10 to 2. The
Uh-huh.
timeline might be a little bit longer to get to where you want, but you don't have to hustle harder. You don't have to work 24 hours a day. You don't have to sacrifice the reasons you gave up to,
Oh,
you know, to
so not all gas and no brakes.
exactly. You get to
Okay.
honor yourself, your family, the things that are important to you. We build a framework and a roadmap around that. And when a woman is like, you mean I can do pickup and I can do drop off and I can sit with my kids at dinner time and I can be there for bedtime and I can go hang out with my girlfriends on a weekend and I can still have a business that is purposeful and makes money? I'm like, yes, you can. And that every time, just like the lights that go on are so worth it every time.
So when you think about that, not only am I giving you the ability to understand your purpose, to walk in your divine, unique call, but I'm also allowing you to begin to understand and walk in the freedom that entrepreneurship should be bringing to you, which is the reason why you wanted to go into entrepreneurship in the first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, that is exactly it. Because you know what? I'm 50 this year. I don't have time to mess around anymore. You cannot give me a plan that works for a single 20-year-old.
That part.
Right? So yeah, it's all about making sure that you are living in your purpose in every aspect of your life, not just in your business.
So if people are out there, they're listening today, and they say, "Oh my God, I have so got to connect with this Sarah. Like she is my dragon lady. She
You
is."
need to.
So
Yes.
how do they do that?
So you can find me on most of the socials as corporate.rehab, or you can Google the Sarah Khan because I had to distinguish that I was the Sarah Khan. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, and honestly, I'm not going to hard sell you. I'm not going to what I call pitch slap you. The very first thing we always do is have an honest conversation about whether this is actually the right step for you.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest with you, because at the end of the day, my purpose is to help you find yours, not or uncover yours, not just take money at any cost. So, yeah.
And we totally, totally appreciate that because there are people out there that are about the money
Yep.
first
Yep.
and helping 3 or 4 down the road. We definitely can appreciate that. Sarah Khan, I so thank you for taking the
Thank you.
time to sit down, to converse with me and our audience, to really just begin to, as we think about where we're going, what we're doing, how we're going to get there, it really is about walking in our freedom. It's walking
Yeah.
in our own unique steps, having that authentic walk is just so amazing. And so I thank you for the work that you do. And, even though you may be the dragon lady, it's okay. I've been
I
called
embrace it. I
I've been
embrace it.
I've been called some interesting names too. This is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we were talking with Sarah Khan. And you know what? No matter what you do out there in this world, we love you. And there is nothing you can do about that. We want to make sure that you are healthy, that you are wealthy, and that you are spiritually sound. We love you. And we'll see you real soon. Thank you, Sarah.
No, it's so good. You are such an amazing host. Oh my goodness.